From guessing the exact price on The Price is Right, to figuring out how to predict a seemingly randomized game, to cheating so badly you get convicted of a crime, these are times players outsmarted game shows. For decades, game shows have been not only a source of entertainment for millions, but they give those that participate a chance to win big. But with so much on the line, it isn't surprising that some people would cheat, rigging the game show in their favor, some even getting away with it. This is the story of 3 people and their accomplices that were involved in some of the biggest game show cheating scandals of all time. On The Price is Right, the goal of the show is to guess as close as possible to an item or a group of items' value without going over. There was once a contestant, Terry Ness, who guessed the exact value of the items to the dollar.
$23,743.
Wow. That's a very exact bid.
Because he was within $250 of the actual price, it allowed him to win not only his own showcase, consisting of a karaoke machine, a pool table, and a 17-foot camper van, but also his competitor showcase. But this was very suspicious. How did Terry know the exact price of the items? After producers Mike Richards and Kathy Greco stopped filming to meet with the host, Drew Carey, they came to one conclusion. See, Drew had recalled an audience member shouting out the price of the items. This was Ted Slauson, a super fan of the show that had been to over 20 tapings. Ted was such a super fan, in fact, that he actually kept a spreadsheet of all the items that had been shown previously on the show, even developing a video game to memorize these items. He was known to use this information to help contestants win the show, and had become notorious for doing so. Despite this, Ted yelling out was edited out of the final episode. So Ted simply knew the price of the items and helped Terry win, right? Well, later on the story gets more complicated. Terry claims that he didn't hear Ted, stating that the 743 was actually his anniversary and his wife's birth month. He also stated that him and his wife also kept spreadsheets similar to Ted. This strategy would actually make sense, as both Terry and his wife were statisticians, Terry previously working in casinos, busting card cheats. Whether this win was through luck, strategy, or help, it will remain as one of the most insane things to ever happen on reality TV. But this next story could be considered even crazier. Press or Luck was a show that involved answering trivia questions that earn you spins on a board, allowing contestants to win prizes. Once you hit a thing called a whammy, all of your winnings are wiped out. A contestant, Michael Larson, discovered that the lights actually moved in 5 different predetermined patterns, not randomly as advertised. Secondly, Larson never once saw a whammy in squares 4 and 8. Instead, they always contained a combination of cash and an extra spin. With these facts, Larson spent the next few months honing his skills at the game. To practice, he watched recordings of the show, using the VCR pause button to practice his timing. After finally getting on the show, Michael was eager to use his strategy. With a slow start to the game, he earned the least amount of spins from the trivia questions with a total of 3, allowing him to spin first. For whatever reason, he ended up immediately hitting a whammy. If Michael wanted to win big bucks, he would have to seriously lock in. The next 2 spins, he won $1,250 twice, giving him a total of $2,500. While neither of these gave him an extra spin, at least he was earning some money. The next trivia round would make the difference for Michael.
And it's one of Lawrence Welk's trademarks. Michael?
Polka!
He answered 7 questions right, giving him the most spins. Because he had the least amount of money, once again he would spin first. This time he immediately won $4,000 and a spin, followed by $5,000 and a spin. After winning $1,000 and a spin, he says,
You haven't lost a spin, Michael.
I'm never losing. Let's go.
While the host Peter interpreted this as a joke, Michael was being somewhat serious. After winning a trip to Hawaii, Michael went on to win various amounts of money in a spin again, and again, and again. Once Michael got to $36,000, the single-day record of Press or Luck, the show actually had to be split into 2 different parts, something never seen before. In the following episode, Michael continued, except this time he only hit money in a spin, and to everyone's shock, he decided to keep playing, getting to $50,000. At $70,000, the audience began getting even more crazy, in disbelief at what they were seeing.
$74,000. question, 851. Michael, you have rolled 31 times without a whammy. 31 times.
At $102,000, Michael finally gave up his remaining spins, passing them to a competitor, Janie. Janie then passed 3 spins back to him, allowing Michael Larson to earn a total of $110,000.
Back sometime.
The final and most notorious game show cheating scandal was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where Charles Ingram ended up winning $1 million using a simple yet effective method. In Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, a player is selected by winning the fastest finger challenge, in which the fastest person to answer the question moves on to the main game. Charles succeeded, joining the host on stage. His goal was to answer increasingly harder questions, earning him more money. To help him, he had 3 lifelines: 50-50, which will eliminate half the questions, phone a friend, and ask the audience. Charles was very familiar with the show. Both his wife Diana Ingram and her brother Adrian Pollock had been on the show, winning £32,000 each. He began by easily answering the first 5 questions until he reached the £2,000 question, which forced him to ask the audience.
Oh, thank you.
After receiving the correct answer, he moved on to his next question, where he would have to use his second lifeline, phone a friend.
Northern Ireland.
How certain are you?
Things were not looking good for Charles Ingram, with only 1 lifeline remaining. Determined to win, Charles Ingram and his wife devised a plan after that day of filming, but to do this, they would need an accomplice. That person would be Tequan Widdock, a professor that just so happened to be sitting in the fastest finger seats the next day of filming. Their plan was to cough as Charles would go over the answers, signaling to him which one was correct. The next day, Charles would take on the £8,000 question, repeating the answers aloud. Every time he repeated the name,
Aristotle Onassis.
there was an audible cough, leading him to eventually pick that as his final answer. It turned out to be correct, meaning the strategy worked flawlessly. Charles correctly answered the £16,000 question, but on the £32,000 question, he was forced to use his third and final lifeline, 50-50. From there, he determined the answer was either A1 or Craig David. After believing it was A1,
I think it's A1.
he quickly changed his answer last minute as his wife coughed from the audience, quickly saving him before he gave a wrong answer. By the £250,000 question, Charles had clearly gained confidence in the system, confirming answers much more quickly compared to earlier in the game. The £500,000 question, however, provided a challenge that would blow Charles and his accomplices' cover if it hadn't been already. When tempted to answer Berlin, there could be a cough and someone clearly saying no. Charles answered Paris,
I know, I think I was wrong. I'm going to go for Paris.
which of course was right. He leaped out of his chair with excitement and nerves, preparing himself for the £1 million question. At first he was convinced Nanimal was the correct option, but coughs from Tequan notified him it was a Google.
I don't think I've heard of a Google.
An answer he had never even heard of. Google, of course, was the correct answer, and Charles Ingram was given a check for 1 million Great British pounds. But this was short-lived, because Celador, the production company for the show, withheld the money and contacted the police due to suspected cheating. Both the Ingrams and Widdock were charged with procuring the extraction of valuable security by deception, and because of this, the 3 were given prison sentences and fines, although they did not serve time in prison, and it was reported that Charles Ingram only paid £1,000 of his £5,000 fine. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, and also leave a comment of what my next video should cover. Anyway, thanks so much for watching.